Hi everyone, so this is Miss Meredith. I'm sure you can't see me because of my shadow. All right, so today we're going to take notes about weathering, erosion, and deposition. All right, so you will take some notes like this, okay, about erosion. So keep that in mind. Okay, so make sure you have this document right here, okay? Make sure you have this because when you're done with it, you're going to glue it in your journal. So let's watch a video about weathering, erosion, and deposition, okay? If it plays.
This is Earth, home to 7 billion plus people, 7 continents, and all kinds of amazing plants and animals. This is what Earth has looked like for a long time, and will probably continue to look like for a long time, right? Yes! And no, sure, this is what Earth looks like from space. But even though it looks pretty much the same from whenever we view it from afar, once you zoom in on it, you can see it's always changing. On a small scale, things like moving water shape the Earth's landforms, the natural features of the Earth's surface. On a bigger scale, the gradual shifting of the Earth's crust is slowly moving even bigger things, like the oceans and the continents. So one day, our planet will look different, maybe a lot different from how it looks now. So how exactly does water shape Earth's landforms? Or to bring it back to the spheres we've been talking about, how does the hydrosphere affect the geosphere? To understand that, we need to discuss weathering. I'm not talking about the weather, like if it happens to be sunny or cold or foggy outside your window right now. I'm talking about weathering, the process that takes place as rocks and other parts of the geosphere are broken down into smaller pieces. Weathering can be caused by water, air, chemicals, plants, or even animals, including us. And there are 2 types of weathering you need to know about: mechanical weathering and chemical weathering. Mechanical weathering is the process of breaking big rocks into little ones. Frost, ice, the roots of plants, running water, or heat from the sun can all cause mechanical weathering. Chemical weathering involves the changes that some substances can cause in the surface of the rock that make it change shape or color. Things like carbon dioxide, oxygen, and acids can all cause chemical weathering. And when rocks have been weathered and all broken down and are later moved by natural forces like wind, water, or ice, that's called erosion. Weathering and erosion sound pretty similar, right? Well, yeah. But not exactly. Think of weathering as the hammer that breaks down the rocks. Erosion is the process that carries those rock fragments away, or put in a way we're all familiar with. Weathering helps make a mess, and erosion helps clean it up. Let's take a trip to the beach to see what part the hydrosphere plays in weathering and erosion. This is a picture taken from space of the coastline of Massachusetts in the northeastern United States. It's part of a landform called Cape Cod, and the picture shows what the beaches and islands around it looked like in 1984. Now look at this photo from 2014. What's different? There are actually more islands in 2014 than there were before. Back in 1984, that long strip of land was North Beach. Now, that strip of land has been chopped up into separate islands. The top part is North Beach, the middle area broke off into North Beach Island, and the bottom part is now called South Beach. So, how did that happen? Well, moving water is a major cause of erosion, and there's a lot of moving water in the Atlantic Ocean. The intense energy of ocean waves crashing on shore causes pieces of the rocky, sandy coastline to break into smaller pieces or to weather over time. Then, natural forces like major storms and rising sea levels then move or erode these smaller pieces. Day to day, you might not notice any dramatic changes, but over the course of 30 years, well, as these pictures show, coastlines can change a lot. So, what can we take away from this? Well, we saw that water can weather and erode Earth's landforms, and that's just one example. There are so many others, like floods weathering valleys or glaciers eroding mountains. Let me break it down for you this way. See what I did there? The hydrosphere shapes and sometimes moves the geosphere. One last joke before I sign off. What did the geosphere say to the hydrosphere? You crack me up.
All right. So, let's continue. Okay, so make sure you have your little document with you. You don't have to write this down yet. So, weathering is the process that breaks down rocks and other substances at the Earth's surface. There are two types of weathering: physical and chemical. Okay, so physical weathering, you're going to write down what's in blue. Rock is broken down into smaller pieces without changing the rock's properties. Examples of mechanical or physical weathering is abrasion, ice wedging, exfoliation, plant growth, or animal action. So, y'all, you will be, yeah, right here. This is what your notes should look like in a minute. So, basically, you're going to copy down the definition and you're going to draw a picture where you see picture at. So, remember, pause the video as needed. So, abrasion is grinding away of rock by other rock particles carried by water, ice, wind, or gravity. You can choose one of these pictures to draw it. Ice wedging is when the water freezes in a rock and then expands and then breaks the rock. So if I have a bird bath, for example, and it's cracked, water can get into the cracks when it freezes, which is below 32 degrees. The water expands because it's ice, and then eventually breaking the rock apart. That is ice wedging. All right, so make sure that yours look very similar to mine. Go ahead and pause this if you need to. Okay, so let's continue. Plant growth. Roots grow into rock, eventually breaking or cracking the rock. So right here you see a root growing into the rock. Split it in half. Animals can cause mechanical weathering too. So animal action, animals burrowing, breaks apart rocks and soil. All right. Okay, so yours should look very similar to this one too. Your pictures don't have to look like mine, but your definition should be very close to that. Okay, so let's move on to chemical weathering. Go ahead and fill out the definition for chemical weathering. Rocks are broken down by chemically changing the materials that makes up the rock. Okay. Okay, examples of chemical weathering will be acid rain, carbonation, water, and living organisms. These are examples of chemical weathering. Okay, so water. Water dissolves minerals in some rocks. For example, this is how caves are formed by water carving out to form caves or caverns. Living organisms such as lichens produce weak acid that dissolves some minerals and rocks. Because remember, lichens break down rocks into soil. Yours should look very similar to mine. Okay. Okay, so acid rain. Chemicals in the air, such as pollution, interact with water to form acids which dissolve rocks. So statues this happens to a lot of statues over time because of acid rain. Carbonation, water dissolves calcium carbonate from the limestone in the soil, creating stagulites or stalagmites. Okay, these are in caves. You see these little things hanging down. So water is going to seep into the soil to create, I call these rock sickles or stagulites or stalagmites. Okay, yours should look very similar to mine. All right, so in a minute, we're going to talk about erosion, but I just want to, briefly talk about this and give you guys some pictures that are way better because I'm not an artist. Okay, so erosion it's basically natural forces that move weathered rock and soil from one place to another. Okay, so water, the Padre Canyon or even the Grand Canyon, it was shaped by a river. This was shaped by a river. The Arches National Park in Utah, it was shaped by wind just constantly blowing and making this rock structure here. Okay, this was shaped by wind. Now, don't forget, y'all, this is the Padre Canyon. They call this the lighthouse right here. And this is in Texas. This is the second largest canyon in the United States. This was shaped by the Red River. If you go to Oklahoma, on I-35, you know that you're crossing the Red River. So the Red River starts in the panhandle of Texas near Amarillo, and this canyon was shaped by it. Really cool. Go see it if you can. It's a state park. Okay, so storm surges from a hurricane can cause erosion, and then when this happens, competition for resources increases as habitats are lost among organisms. So as you can see, this was caused by a storm surge. This is what it normally would look like, but after a storm, you can see that even the sidewalks that leads to the beach were completely destroyed. And you can see the loss of grass here, and that is soil erosion. Okay, so gravity can cause sediment to move downhill. This is what it looked like before a landslide, and then all of it just fell down, deposit at the bottom. Okay, so glaciers do not sort their sediment, leaves great piles of tiny clay and up to large boulders. Gravity can cause rocks to fall. Great piles of rubble are deposited along the bottoms of cliffs. Oh, look, a sea arch forms when waves erode a layer of soft rock that is under the hard rock. This is beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so I want to show you guys some pictures about deposition. Deposition is the dropping of weathered material in a location. This builds new land. So this is how deposition happens. Okay. All right, so funny joke. I hate the rain. Oh no, water is in my crack. I hope it doesn't get cold. Ouch, I hate winter. All right, y'all. Okay, make sure you guys, um, did your notes. Okay, make sure you have this thing filled out right here. If not, you need to go back and make sure you fill it out and then glue it into your journal. And then make sure you are ready to take notes about erosion. Okay, these are going to be your notes. All right, so move on to the next video. All right, bye, y'all.